Hello, welcome to Serenity Secrets podcast. On this episode, we're talking about life on the spectrum, and I am excited to have an amazing guest, Ayanna Davis, who is a phenomenal autism advocate. Ayanna, how are you today?
I'm doing great. We have our good and bad days, and I'm doing great.
Yes. Would you mind telling the audience a little about who you are as a person?
Yes, my name is Ayanna Sanaa, and I'm an autism advocate, but before people knew me as an autism advocate, they knew me as an artist. I've illustrated 37 children's books, and I used to design children's clothing. I still do it sometimes, like by request. I used to run a dance program for children in underserved communities, and I used to assist in a theater company for children in underserved communities.
Oh, wow. Those are huge accomplishments.
Thank you.
I wish I was that crafty to design children's clothes. Okay, so one of the things that I would like for our audience to know is that you yourself are on the autism spectrum. And that was something like growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was rare for girls to be diagnosed. So how has that been for you, not only like growing up in that rarity, but now as an adult woman?
Well, being a millennial, it's really like strange because, when we were children, people didn't even know about anxiety, let alone autism.
Mhm.
I used to have bad anxiety when I was a child, and I'm sharing this with permission. And my dad would be like, "There's nothing wrong with you. Go to bed." Or he'd be like, "I'm taking you to the doctors." And I went to the doctors and it was like, "She's fine." But it was anxiety and we didn't know this. But everybody always knew that I was different, but I feel like it slipped through because I'm an artist. And you know how people are always like, oh, artists are so eccentric. So they're like, just let her do her thing. Just let her do her art. Let her do her dance. Let her write. Let her do whatever feeds her creativity. So I also feel like that's also why it was missed. I'm an artist, and obviously because, I'm Black and I'm a woman. Well, I was a little girl, but and I got diagnosed by accident. I wasn't seeking a diagnosis, and them telling me that I was autistic is the last thing I expected to hear.
Oh, wow. And I've noticed, like, even being a mom, raising a little boy who's on the spectrum and being in the field for 13 years, the way that a person who is neurodivergent, their brains work. I wasn't looking to be diagnosed with combined ADHD, but it made sense because I was one of those kids who was like in all student governments and like all those things. It's a beauty. It's almost like a superpower. Do you ever see it that way? Because your
I
mind works in
I
ways that
see it.
ours can't.
I have with everything, it's like there are weak parts, but then there are really strong parts. Like I'm a person who pays attention to details and I'm a good listener. And my dad said that when I was about 4, we drove past the building and I went home and I drew the building. And he said he looked at it funny because he was like, I noticed she didn't just draw the same amount of windows that was on the house. And I did, but and I wasn't thinking about that. It was just having a semi-photographic memory. So I feel like you have your weaknesses like everybody else, but with any disorder or disability, you can still thrive and you have your moments when you feel like you're untouchable.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. Yes, being able to see those things. What are some stereotypes that you have faced as a Black woman and having to like battle neurodivergence and people not fully understanding?
Well, these can apply for pre-diagnosis and after being diagnosed, but before I was diagnosed, even like one of my aunts, she was like, and I think this was even after I got diagnosed, but she was like, "Oh, you were such a bad little girl. You didn't listen. You was always hopping all over the place." And I was just looking at her like, "But we know why now." So But it was always that I was mean or that I had an attitude or I was getting smart with somebody when, being autistic, having issues with communication, I was literally just seeking clarity. But people can see it as talking back. Sometimes in the Black community, a child's not supposed to get the last word, but I always kind of got the last word because I needed clarity.
Yes.
So, and then, to society it's kind of the same stereotypes. She's got an attitude. She's the angry Black woman. I've said this before, and the way I mean it is before, because we are angry. We do have anger, and we have the right to be angry as Black women because of the way society treats us. But I was saying that before they even consider that we can be neurodivergent, we are labeled angry. So I've had the angry label or just I actually got my diagnosis in the psych ward because it was like, oh, she's just crazy. She's bipolar. So those are like the stereotypes that like Black women can't be neurodivergent. I mean, traditionally the face of autism has been a little white boy, not even like a grown up, because some people, I don't know why, but they seem to forget that autism doesn't end when you turn 18.
It doesn't. And the fact that you said that, I had just had a conversation with a coworker yesterday about how in the past, I was like, do you not know that they would not diagnose us with autism? These kids were being treated for mental health issues and bipolar disorders
Behavioral
that
issues, yeah. It's
never
always
existed.
behavioral. When it's
Yes,
Black children, it's always behavioral. They're demonized for things that they can't help.
yes. And I'm glad that you are speaking up on that. And with us being in the South, we have some mishaps and lack of resources. Has that made life difficult for you any, or is there like anything that you can like say to help others out in the South?
You definitely have to do your own research, even though I'm in New York. Um, we didn't get any resource when I got diagnosed. It kind of felt like they was just like, okay, she's autistic. I know what's wrong with her now. Bye. We didn't get any direction or anything to do. So you definitely have to do your own research and find out what works for your child. Find out what type of therapy works for your child, where you see them thriving. My dad did some research and he found that after doing a few different sessions, we found that CBT therapy, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and DBT therapy, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. I have a speech impediment, just in case I'm stuttering over anything. Those are the therapies that work for me best. So you do have to do your homework and see what works best for your child because, no two autistic people are the same.
Hmm. And what are some common misconceptions that you have ran across, like in like your own research as you gotten older, or like conversations that you've heard and you living the life, be like, no, that is not true.
Oh, well, like the way that autism is portrayed in TV and movies, I think that has a lot to do with why people think about autism the way they do. They think that we're all like math geniuses. They think that we just sit in front of video games all day, or they think that all men that are autistic are incels. And so there's just so many misconceptions. And then, we were just very negatively in the news because of RFK. So
Yes.
that kind of brought us a little bit of a storm. I felt like we were making progress, and then here he comes, still talking about vaccines when it's already been proven that vaccines don't cause autism. The neurocognitive style of autism predates vaccines, so it's not from vaccines.
And I thank you for sharing that because that is a big misconception and a huge conversation that's happening all over. And you have parents questioning themselves. Mommies like me, even though I've worked in the field for years, my mommy journey is only 4 years fresh. So there is like that question of like, did I do something? Did I have the wrong thing? Like, what did I do on my end as a
Yeah,
parent?
I think that's really something that I have heard from parents. They do speak about the same issue. I also hear from some parents because I have a lot of conversations with parents, which is weird because I'm not a mother. I don't have any children. But I'm just telling them my perspective and how I see things. And a lot of them tell me that, I'm helping them understand their child better. So just having those conversations with them, I learn a lot because, from state to state, resources are different. Who gets the resources are different.
Hmm.
Black, white.
And if I am allowed to ask, I think one of the cool things is how people with neurodivergence have like their little self-soothing mechanisms.
Oh,
And
I
people will,
do.
they
I do.
say, I've always been told, even with my own, he has a hard time with coping. And I'm like, no, he don't. He has his little things that he does, and it might
No,
look off to you, but hey, it's pretty cool. What are like your little stems or like your self-soothing habits?
well, my stems honestly are not small at all. And I think I have like some videos on my page and I be all over the place. I rock back and forth. That's one of my coping mechanisms. This is very soothing for me. I have sensory rings. You put it on your finger and it feels like a stress ball, but it's a ring that you keep on your finger. I'm an artist, so drawing is just something that I can do when I need to regulate my emotions. But when I need to stim, I do it. I have a tick too. My eyes blink a lot. That's just a tick. I don't have Tourette's, but autistic people have ticks as well. So those are just some of the things I do. I love Care Bears, so I have a ton of Care Bears, and those are my comfort items. I have like a really huge one, and it's my comfort item. So I feel like we all do. It's not always quote unquote acceptable because we're adults, but I just feel like whatever a person has to do to make themselves comfortable, they should be able to do it without judgment.
Yes, and I love that because even with like your Care Bears, that is something that I feel like you have that sense of keeping that youthfulness alive that some neurotypical people like they grow out of it. And I'm like, that's what's wrong with y'all. You need to find
I
that
love
softness in you.
I And the thing is, like, we can get so hyper focused on something because before the Care Bears, it was Hello Kitty, but now I'm so disinterested. Like, once in a while, if I see a cute t-shirt, I'll get it. But now everything is like Care Bears, Care Bears. And then, like, I think even before that, it was Mickey Mouse, but now I don't even want anything Mickey Mouse. So being like hyper focused on something and then losing interest so fast is a trait that I have, which sometimes it scares me because sometimes it happens with people too. Like I can be in like have like a not really a friendship, but a rapport with somebody and be developing a friendship, but then I'm just like, I'm not interested anymore, which is terrible. But those are some of the things that happens as an adult with communication issues.
And that is one of the things that my therapist had talked to me about. And I was like, I just thought I was just one of those people with the gift of goodbye. Like I wasn't worried about them.
No,
And she was
yeah.
like, no, you need to look into that. And I was like, okay.
My friends understand. They know that I have my phases when I disappear, but I'm just trying to get back with myself so I can thrive because you don't want to go into autistic meltdown. That can last for years, and some people never get out of it. It's just so much more intense than regular burn downs and of neurotypical people, and they don't understand that. So, my friends understand that they don't crowd me. My phone, it stays on do not disturb. My dad be like, "Where's your phone on do not disturb?" Because my phone stays on do not disturb. But my phone does stay on do not disturb. And when I get to my phone and I get to my message, I get to them. None of my friends are like, "Oh, I had to text you 3 times," or like, "Oh, I text you, you took too long." I don't have friends like that because I don't allow people to treat me like that.
And I am glad that you have that sense of like, this is my time for myself. I'm still learning that. So I'm learning, like, thank you
It
for
took me
that.
a while. It took me a while. I used to let people walk all over me. I'm a former people pleaser. So it's like people see that they can test your boundaries, but
Hmm.
I'm at the point now where my boundaries aren't negotiable. Like we can't negotiate. When I set a boundary, that's the boundary, and we're not negotiating.
I love that for you. And you talked about like your art and things. One of the things that I would like for our audience to know that you've actually have books available.
Yes, I do.
And could you tell them about your books and like where they can go order them and purchase
Yeah,
them?
sure. I have books that I've done for other authors and books that I've done for myself. Some of the books that I've done for other authors, there's a book called My Melanin, and it's just so, beautiful Black little girls can love their hair and love their skin. And I did a book recently called Boys Have Manners Too, showing that little Black boys can have manners, celebrating Black boy joy. So those are just a few of the books that I've done about with other authors. And then for me, I've done tons of coloring books. I put my book out about the little Black autistic girl. I'm autistic and I'm phenomenal. In 2023, it's still doing very well. People still come and talk to me about it. For Autism Acceptance Month this year, I released two coloring and activity books. I'm Autistic and I'm Phenomenal, a boy version and a girl version.
That is amazing. And where could they order these books?
You can get them all on my Amazon. If you follow me on social media, they're always linked on any page that I have. They're in my link tree. But if you just go on Amazon and type in my name, they all pop up.
Thank you for sharing that. Another thing that I would like to ask is as a parent, because some parents, when they dive into this journey, it is new and it is fresh, and all of us have that sense of wanting to advocate. How can parents, help with advocacy, or even like when it comes to helping others not only understand our children, but other people's children?
I would say to the parents, like with me, I either have the best experience with moms of autistic children, or I have the worst experience with them. Some of them do not like autistic adults because it's kind of like a reflection of what their child's going to be when they grow up. And like a lot of them think there's a cure, but there's not. So those are the ones that I clash with. But then you have such wonderful ones who they're open-minded. They come to your page. They're like, I'm learning so much. This is teaching me so much. So but you definitely have to speak up for your child and you have to become your child's biggest advocate. If you don't like something a doctor is saying, go to another doctor. If the therapy is not working, pull them out and put them in another therapy. Like I mentioned earlier, you have to figure out what works for your child. But the thing I would say most is to be your child's biggest advocate.
And for educators, because this is my third year, my second full year in public school after transitioning from ABA therapy. And I've noticed that especially small Title I schools, teachers have no idea what they are getting into. They're like, okay, so what am I supposed to do here? How can you help the teachers out when it comes to like teaching a classroom, especially now that they have implemented full integration and inclusion, and you have like these three who are like, yep, I'm chilling, but then you have little Johnny over here. It's like, oh no, it's party time. I got the zoomies.
The thing that they have to do is get to know each autistic neurodivergent child individually. It's not just like, okay, they want a STEM, let's give them a ball, and it applies to everybody because that's not going to work for everybody. Some autistic children don't like balls at all, can't even tolerate the sound of a bouncing ball. So they have to come down to their level and get to know them, what makes them tick, what makes them feel safe. And once you find out what their safety net is, you can connect better. I would tell educators to definitely try to connect with a local autism advocate or an autistic adult, have them come in even just to read a book to the class so they can see that there are people like them in the world and they're not just like the freak and the weirdo, because that's what I grew up thinking, that I was just a weirdo. But and that's another reason why I wrote my book. I'm autistic and I'm phenomenal. I don't want little Black autistic girls thinking that they're just freaks and that they're just weirdos, because that's not the case.
And for me, I know when it comes to little boys, I can figure them out like right off the bat. But there's always the little girls who like make my mind. And I was like, well, now I'm like, I know why, because we're all one and the same. And there's something here about you that's either triggered me or I haven't figured out about myself. What advice would you give like somebody who's like, okay, now we have the girls in the bunch, because you usually see a class full of diagnosed boys and there's always that one girl.
Um, we have better masking skills, meaning we can hide our autism traits better than
Mhm.
boys. So a lot of the time it goes missed. Everybody just thought I was the little awkward black girl or thought that I was shy. So it just comes across different in every little girl because, you know, like I said, all autistic children are different, but girls mask better. So a lot of times it is missed, and then we go back to the stigmas of it, autism being little white boys. So even sometimes little white girls are left behind and they're not diagnosed.
And the name of our podcast is Serenity Secrets. Serenity meaning peace. Do you have like any secrets? What are your secrets to like maintaining your peace, even like outside of the neurodivergence, just as a black woman in
As a Black
America?
woman, I have to stick to a schedule because of being autistic and I thrive on routine. I'm sure you know that because of your son. But things that I do that just as a woman, I meditate, even if it's only for 5 minutes, because sometimes my attention span is like not for 20 minutes today. So I meditate and I journal. And I'm into self-care, I'm into skincare. I like to do my makeup, even if I'm not going anywhere. I love to create content and I love to do research and advocate. So that is a form of self-care for me also, because when I started my advocacy journey, it was for me to learn about being autistic, but then it just kind of turned into people coming to me asking me things, and it just kind of like I was diagnosed by accident and I became an advocate by accident. So but I have to have my journal in, I have to meditate, I got to drink my tea at night. So just little things that you can do for yourself. I listen to audiobooks. I like to have a physical copy just to have it, but I'm better with the audiobooks. Those are just things that I do that help me and help me stay regulated, help me stay grounded so I don't lose my mind.
And I want to thank you for your braveness and your advocacy because it has helped so many people out. Ever since I've like started following you,
Thank
it's
you.
helped me out as a mom, as an educator. And I think it was actually like your content that made me kind of wonder, like after watching my son, and I was like, there is no way. I started working in the field before having my own son. And that's when I was like, let me go get myself evaluated. And she was like, yeah. I was like, I knew the inattentive ADHD was there, but the combined ADHD, and she was like, yep, that's why you don't mind running all over the place. And I was like, now I make sense now.
Yeah, like that's what happens. When I found out, it was a relief. I was in denial for a few years, which was just hurting me more. But once I accepted it, life changed and life got better.
Yes. And for those who are watching, you can follow her on social medias at Phenomenally Autistic. I promise you will learn so much from her content. And we are glad to have you on the show today. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for having
much.
me. You're so welcome.